It's Dr. Christine Arsenault, PharmD, Functional Medicine Certified Health Coach. And today I wanted to talk about our thoughts. Sometimes we get into negative thought patterns when we are chronically ill. We start to lose hope and we start to maybe catastrophize and to think about what if we don't get well. And we start to have these negative thoughts that pop up. And I just wanted to give you some tips on how to deal with thoughts, how to think about thoughts in a way that might benefit you and might enable you to get a little bit further along to change some of those thought patterns. So, a thought is just a thought. That's the overall message that I want to convey today. It's really our judgments about the thoughts that cause anxiety. And we just have to remember that we are not our thoughts. So we are an observer. Thoughts come and go, and our thoughts are not us, but we are an observer of those thoughts. So sometimes we forget that. We get stuck in the thoughts and we think that's who we are, but who we actually are is the observer of those thoughts that we are having. And for me, this is why meditation was so powerful for me in my healing journey, because I became an observer of those thoughts. As those thoughts came up, I was able to allow them to come and go when I was in that stillness of that meditation. And, it's that judgment, that labeling, even labeling something as a negative thought or a positive thought. If we can just not give that much weight to thoughts and just allow them to come and go and realize they're just thoughts, and then start to recognize ones that aren't serving us so we can make changes, but just not giving them that much weight, not living in that spot where the thought is our reality, and remembering that we're above that. We're that observer of those thoughts that come and go. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of thoughts that come up throughout the day, and to just remember to take them lightly, that a thought is just a thought, and that all we really have is the present moment. And that's why mindfulness is really powerful, because when we're in the present moment, when we are appreciating what is going on around us, then we can't be thinking about the future and being anxious about that. We can't be thinking about the past and feeling, guilt or resentment or different feelings that come up. We just have the present moment. That's all that really exists, all that we have. And so if we can be fully present in that moment, then it's a lot harder to have those anxieties, because all we have is what is happening right now. And we have to remember that what we resist persists. So you can't just suppress feelings, you can't just suppress thoughts. And I learned that in my healing journey, that I had been suppressing emotions. And so I had to feel all those emotions. And there are other ways to do it. You don't have to refill them in order to get emotions moving through you. I wasn't aware of those tools at the time. So during my 4 years of healing, when I locked myself away in my healing cocoon, I felt a lot of feelings. I did a lot of crying. I had to get those emotions to move. I had to realize that emotions that I had, I had just suppressed them. They were stuck in my body, and that was causing symptoms. Stuck emotions actually cause oxygen deprivation that causes physical symptoms. So I had to allow those emotions to go through me in order to heal. And just a note on emotions and thoughts is, you really can't think your way out of something that you felt your way into. So thoughts are one thing, but emotions also have to be addressed. You can't think your way out of certain situations. And so I just wanted to tie that in, that emotions and thoughts both need to be dealt with in healing, because we are mind, body, soul. And you have to encompass all of those if you want true healing. But let's just focus on the thoughts for today. And so what we suppress, what we resist persists. So you can't just get mad at yourself for having a negative thought. We're going to have negative thoughts. We're going to have positive thoughts. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts at all times. We just can't give them that much weight. We have to realize a thought is just a thought. It's not us. It is not our identity. And sometimes when we have a thought pattern that we're recognizing that isn't serving us, we can call it negative. If we can deliberately make that thought happen, that can actually be beneficial for the brain. So that's one tip, is if you can deliberately have a thought, then our brain realizes that it's a choice to have that thought or not have that thought. So if you know that there is a thought that isn't serving you, become aware of it. And every time that it pops up, remember that you have a choice. And so maybe even deliberately have it come up when you want to, because you're tricking the brain to say, oh, this doesn't have to be here. I have a choice on if I have this thought or not. So sometimes deliberately thinking, having that awareness of the negative thought that you don't want, and then deliberately bringing it up so that your brain knows that there is a choice. You can think it or you cannot think it. It just gives less weight to it. So that's one tip that I have on breaking those negative thought patterns. Another is labeling. So this is what I like to do in meditation specifically, but you can do this anytime throughout the day. Whenever a thought comes up, say just a thought, thinking, idea, whatever it is, just give it a phrase and allow it to pass, and just don't give it any weight. So just label it, and that's a way for you to become aware of it, and again, separate yourself from it a little bit. Another is to white it out in your mind. So have that thought come up and you just imagine it being completely whited out. And you're just retraining your brain that that thought has no power here. So just whiting it out. Another thing you could do is if you are more a visual person, or if you see kind of words, you can just see them smaller. You can take that thought and imagine it differently. Imagine it smaller. Imagine it shrinking. That's another tool. Just shrinking it till it has no power here. Another fun one is to just change the voice. So if your thought comes to you in a certain voice, for me, it's like my internal voice. It's my voice that I hear. If you could just imagine like Minnie Mouse or some squeaky cartoon character, make it speed up and really high pitched, and just imagine it like that. And that makes it a little bit harder to take that thought seriously. So just playing around with the thoughts that come up can be very helpful. So just remember that a thought is just a thought, and you can play with it. You can do these different techniques in order for your brain to realize that, oh, this is a choice. It's a thought. It's not real. It's not my reality. I can choose to have it or choose not to have it. And instead of just focusing on suppressing it, just play around with it, have fun with it, and that will take the power away from those thoughts that are no longer serving you, that you don't want to have. And I'll just say that in order for me to heal, I had to definitely be very careful with my thoughts and my words, and realizing that the words that you speak are powerful. And so I no longer said my Lyme disease, for example. I had to distance myself from my diagnosis. I was a person who was sick with Lyme disease, and I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to be something new. So in order to become something new, I had to change my vocabulary. I had to change my thoughts. I had to change my feelings. I had to create a whole new identity. And I see it as that cocoon that I went into, a healing cocoon for 4 years, where I just totally immersed myself in healing and learning and everything that I could do to focus on wellness, to overcoming this. And after those 4 years, I became a healthy butterfly. And so I was no longer that caterpillar that went into the cocoon. I was something completely different. I had transformed, so there was no going back. It's not even possible to go back to the sick version of myself, because I had created a new identity and jumped into it. And so when I first started doing that, it was starting with not saying my Lyme disease, distancing myself, and also not speaking my symptoms out loud anymore. And this was kind of toward the end of my journey, when I had done a lot of work on emotions. So I wasn't repressing the way that I felt, but I just realized that it wasn't working. Something clicked in my brain that what I'm doing is not working, so I'm going to try something different. So there was a distinct moment where I wanted to complain about my symptoms. I was in so much pain, and I just wanted to tell my partner at the time, and I just wanted to talk about it because I hurt so bad. And I just wanted to voice that. And I thought, no, I'm going to do it a different way. It hasn't worked up until now. I'm going to try something different. And at first, it kind of felt like I was playing pretend, because I just started saying things, speaking into what I wanted instead of where I actually was at. And I started saying things like, I'm in vibrant health. And I stopped talking about the symptoms that I was having. I stopped saying my Lyme disease. I distanced myself. And in that process, I was able to shift. And it's just a reminder that our words have power and our thoughts are powerful. They're part of the healing process, but at the same time, they only have as much power as you give them. A thought is just a thought. And so if you can acknowledge that, if you can let them come and let them go, and at the same time start to be aware of the patterns that aren't serving you so that you can change those. Because we can have, a healing mindset, and we can be full of hope and healing and think about what we want in the future and feel into that, or we can have an unhelpful mindset that's keeping us stuck, that's keeping us where we are and having those negative thought patterns and just thinking about where we're at and wondering what happens if we don't get better and catastrophizing about the future. But if you're able to shift your thoughts and feel your feelings and allow those to shift through you as well, then you can really start to see your health change, because we are mind, body, soul. We are not just the physical layer. So in order to truly heal, you have to address all aspects: mind, body, and soul. So I hope this was helpful today. Have a wonderful day.